Koopalings? Welcome back to Super NVC, and it's the most super episode yet, I think.
The superest.
Because you can see us.
The superest.
Here we are.
Hey.
It's the Ultra. It's
I'm
like the
Audrey
Ultra
Drake.
64 version.
That's
of
Richard
NV
George. I'm
Hi.
interrupting him because why
That's
not?
okay.
That's
Damn.
Jeremy Parrish right there.
I'm the 64DD version.
That mustache, that glorious mustache is Samuel Claiborne.
The GameCube.
Yeah, and we're here to talk, well, Zelda.
That's your handle right there.
Something pretty big
The
happened.
GameCube handle.
Something pretty big happened in the Zelda universe yesterday, guys.
She just can't wait to talk about
I'm
it.
so,
We can't even
I'm
do
so
it.
excited.
She's
So,
vibrating with
the
excitement.
sequel to
Yeah,
A Link.
your favorite game ever got a sequel.
Yeah, my favorite game of all time got
Chrono
a
Trigger 2?
sequel. How often? No, that happened. But anyway, how often does that happen, that a sequel to one of the greatest games of all time gets announced?
Twice for this one, because there was a Japanese-only Satellaview
It's in the
sequel
same
to
world,
Link to the
though,
Past.
guys. Come on,
too.
you know what I mean. But
I
in
don't
any
care what the
case,
timeline says. I still see Link's Awakening as a sequel to The Link to the Past.
It is literally. I think they've confirmed that in the
I thought the timeline said it wasn't.
they
But
said
who
it
cares about the
was.
timeline?
Yeah,
There's-
as you can
We'll
see,
refer to the timeline later.
uh,
We clearly came prepared. But anyway,
Right,
for anyone who's still with us, during yesterday's Nintendo Direct broadcast, they actually announced a complete new game in the world of A Link to the Past. It's going to have a new story.
You didn't put little air quotes over new.
Okay, note that air quotes have been included.
Right. A new.
But
Zelda
yeah,
game.
you're looking at it right now, and we actually got to play it yesterday. So
why
what
do you
did
think
guys
it's not new?
Well, see that right there, where you're
I
like
know
climbing a tower and you're fighting a Moldorm at
yeah,
the
you
top,
fought the
and
Moldorm before,
you're doing all the
right.
stuff that
I've
you did
never
in the
turned
original
into
Zelda.
a hieroglyph.
Yeah.
It's been confirmed the area that
As
Link's
Yeah,
in
that's,
right there.
that's taken straight out of the forest by the lumberjacks.
the
Yeah, well, it's
lumberjack
set in the
guys.
same world, but it has new abilities, and it's in 3D. No more sprites.
So I don't want to be too cynical about the game
But-
because it's really cool that they're making not only a Link to the Past sequel, but that they're doing it with sort of an updated version of that style where it had that very distinctive, like the round trees and the
Yeah.
cute little Link who
Very
doesn't have
distinct
pink hair,
coloring.
but still everything else is very, very consistent with that game. But at the same time, it does feel kind of like I've already seen all this stuff and done all this stuff, and the one change is the new mechanic, the turning into sort of a sketch on the wall and being able to move around. And I like that a lot because it makes you really mindful of how the levels are constructed. And I think anything that sort of says, hey, here are some really well-designed levels and we want you to think about them on every angle, like that's a hallmark of Zelda from the very beginning.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I feel like everything else is maybe a little too similar to what we've seen
I'm not
before.
too worried about it because the entirety of the dungeon, like the length of it and just sort of the design of it, almost felt like a test. Maybe this was just something they were sort of sampling out.
It's pretty short.
So I'm not too worried
Just to
about
be clear,
that.
we played only a dungeon yesterday.
Yeah, just
it
one
was
dungeon,
start to
one
finish.
boss.
There was a boss at the end. It was, probably 10 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But you could
realize
stretch out.
it's totally a proof of concept, and I get that. But I do feel like this is very much in the spirit of New Super Mario Brothers, and I like those games, but the portable versions are not as well served as the console versions. New Super Mario Wii, New Super Mario Brothers U, those are both really, really great games with lots of really great visual designs and, like in the backgrounds and everything, and lots of really creative original level designs. The portable games, the original New Super Mario Brothers and then New Super Mario Brothers 2, are much less imaginative. And
Which is funny because the portable versions of Zelda have traditionally been the most imaginative
wackiest,
ones.
Yeah, Link's Awakening, Oracle of Ages.
Majora aside, I think, Link's Awakening kind of broke with Zelda style by making it kind of this psychedelic dream game, and it had a Kirby in it, and Chain Chomp and stuff like that. It was just a wacky game, and carrying on that tradition were a series of Game Boy games that are just, they don't feel like the high adventure Zelda games. They're kind of like these quirky spin-off
Well,
games.
and that's the same for the DS games, and I'm a really big fan of the DS games, even though
too.
I don't necessarily like playing with a stylus, but I just like all the different things that those games did and how they focused around something, totally set them apart from the console games. And I guess I'm just worried that they might try to play it safe with this one, and
See,
I don't want that because I love the portable Zelda games actually more than I like the console games, just because they are so like, hey, let's just throw some ideas at the wall and see what sticks. I like that creativity. Creative Nintendo is the best Nintendo.
Yeah, see, I was disappointed by the DS games. I still really liked them, but for me, just Touch Zelda just isn't the same. It's not as good good old
so
button
that
presses.
really was the sticking
Yeah, but
point
for
you,
me,
the
like
touch?
I was really happy to play this because it just is a return to that classic feel. You know, you've got your buttons, you've got your weapons. It just feels like Zelda, as I always loved it, and it seems like it's adding enough new to make it a distinct experience. So for me,
I
it's the
hope
best
so.
of both worlds.
Yeah, you can
We
see
only
it.
saw one dungeon.
What do you
so
think
it's
of
hard to
the
There's
say.
another
Link.
dungeon where you have to take a blind dude to the light, and there's a dungeon where you have to raise and lower the water
And
levels.
I guarantee you,
I'm
in the
gonna be
next
let down.
Mario game, you're gonna have to rescue Peach, but I'm okay with that.
That's-
It's for the
that's
gameplay.
the macro
I play these
version.
games for the gameplay. You know, I don't really care if I'm rescuing Zelda or Peach
Really?
again.
What do you care about the style then? You like that?
I actually really like this style because for me, it preserves the original feel of that overworld, which was really distinct, really cool, and it looks like they just sort of popped the old sprites out into 3D. So I think it looks fantastic.
I would love the sprites to be back, but I kind of recognize that, like, especially just to accentuate the 3D and, you know, the 3D of the levels and everything, you know, they gotta kind of go the direction they did. You can see it here on the screen right
I
now.
just think losing the cell stuff is a big loss. I just think that was one of the greatest parts of handheld Zeldas. Carrying on that
But you know,
tradition.
the cell shading puts a game distinctly in that specific Wind
that
Waker
universe,
timeline.
yeah.
This, you know, this visual style, like this and Link's Awakening, put those as sequels to A Link to the Past. I like that they use specific visual styles to denote the sort of internal continuity between games.
Yeah, I was
think that's
actually
great.
dreading that it would be the Wind Waker style, the cel-shaded style again, because like I love that Link, but that's all we've seen for a long time, especially on portables. So I'm happy that it's
yeah, even
something
Minish
new.
The Four
did
Swords
that.
games
Exactly.
have done, and have done kind of the sprite-esque, you know, Link, and he's a little bit. I think in the most recent Four Swords, the free version on Game Boy, or sorry, on 3DS.
The Anniversary Edition.
Yeah, the Anniversary Edition has that kind of like floppy Link that's really close to the design from A Link to the Past, and I think this is vastly different even from that. I just think I'm surprised when you see Link. He has he looks like a Lego figure. Like I wanted to say, like, you know, Lego.
Don't knock Legos, man.
I know,
Legos
I
are
know.
awesome.
He's
No,
Lego
like-
Zelda confirmed.
He's very much like old school Link. You know, he's not.
What if
sort
that
of-
was the twist?
Yeah, he's like.
Turns out this is a Lego game.
Yeah, but it's cool because he's not like a little chibi guy. He's not sort of the pretty boy Link. He's very much
Pretty
the-
boy Link.
Very much.
Which one's
he's
that?
pretty,
That's the
right?
Skyward Sword one.
Twilight Princess, Skyward
That's
Sword.
Ocarina of
the-
Time where he has an earring.
The girl hair Link.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I mean, he's very much sort of the Hobbit-looking Link from the original games, which is cool. We haven't seen that guy in a long time.
You aren't big enough.
I wouldn't mind.
You think it's the same Link?
I think so. I don't know, but I would guess.
What do you think,
From,
Jeremy?
from A Link to the Past, yes.
It's on
Right.
the
It
split.
looks
From the
like
original
him.
Zelda, it's not, because
No.
Zelda and Zelda
that's-
2 take place in the far future.
No, I'm asking, from A Link to the Past. If
Oh,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah,
same Link.
I think
think
it
it
has
is,
to be,
yeah.
right? I mean, here's the thing: is so there's no subtitle on this game
do
in
you lose
America,
his stuff, then?
but it is Link to the Past 2 in Japan. Like
Yeah.
it's
Well, the big
outright
question
2.
is-
Yeah, and that's an important point, is that it's being titled
Or
as,
Kagame no Triforce
In Japan,
2.
it's
Yeah,
being tried.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
which is not, which doesn't mean A Link to
This
the
is a
Past.
Right,
tentative
no, it means
title.
the
They're
Triforce of
gonna
the Gods.
change
okay,
it.
cool.
But
Sorry, what
yeah.
were we saying?
I
Please.
think I said it.
Okay, we didn't hear you.
Anyway.
We were talking about the Triforce.
We were
of the
talking among
Gods.
ourselves.
All right, so back to Link to the Past 2. What do you guys think of the painting mechanics, Sam?
Well, in the dungeon that we played, I felt like it was the only thing that was making me think this wasn't like a doomed rehash of the same old Zelda stuff. And obviously, it was just the little tip of the iceberg. that we
Oh
saw.
yeah, it was really clever how they used it. Like it sort of gave you a new viewpoint of the whole level.
Well,
it wasn't top down.
It takes a
when you
top-down
do
game
it.
and then it makes it into a 3D game. And it
Exactly,
actually
you can
turns
sort
the
of-
camera to the side, and then everything's 3D in
And
there.
you can sort of slink
No,
through windows to
I
find
think-
new areas. You can dodge enemies that way.
And one of my favorite puzzle-solving things was that you'd be on a moving platform going under a block, and instead of just running around the block, you'd normally just be pushed off your platform, but you had to merge onto that block and then just kind of paint yourself around to the other side of the block and then fall off of it onto the platform again.
Yeah.
And you had to do
Lots
that
of
before
like
your magic meter runs out, which is something I
Yes.
really like. The magic meter plays really heavily into both the magic hammer and the sketch mechanic.
Different. You
And
can- every time you
like
hit
you're-
it with a
every
hammer
time
now.
you-
yeah,
yeah, every time
speaking
you
of,
use
it seems like it's
it
something of a
drops
stamina
down.
meter now.
But then it recharges on its own. And I know people are like, oh my God, recharging hell, that's the worst cliche of video games. But in this case, it's really great because one of the big frustrations of A Link to the Past was that you would run out of
Running out of
magic.
magic.
Like when you were trying to fight the Twin Rover or whatever, the fire and ice headed thing, and you had to use the magic rods. Like if you run out of magic in that fight, you're kind of screwed. But now the magic recharges on its own. You just kind of have to stand to the side, and it gives you this time limit on how long you can be painted to the walls. And I think that's
Seems like a good balance,
I think that's a really
too.
good change.
It's like it's not too much of a frustration, but at the same time, it makes you.
No, they
be
put some
aware.
thought into that, and that makes me feel better about this game.
And your hearts don't replenish, so don't worry.
Right.
I'm
Yeah, it's not
curious-
like you can duck behind cover and then you're.
Yeah, I hate that in games.
That'd be really funny. Actually,
I'm okay
but
now.
I'm curious
I
how
got shot
this.
in the head, but I'm
Zelda.
okay now.
I'm curious how this demo is actually. You know, I mean, it seems like they're still toying with some ideas. I mean, the idea of a recharging, you know, magic meter and that sort of thing. Like we were talking with Bill Trin in OA, and he was sort of saying that some of this stuff is still sort of them testing. and
Like in the
seeing what-
demo, you had infinite arrows. Like that's sort of just for
Yeah.
the demo. They're still working on mechanics, trying to figure out exactly how it's going to be.
I really am curious to see, you know, all the 3DS games so far have really been scaled to be portable, to be very bite-sized. You look at Mario 3D Land, and that was, you know, more bite-sized ideas and levels and that sort of thing. I'm really curious to see if, you know, I'm used to my dungeons in Zelda lasting for, you know, even hours, you know, and this was 10 minutes and I was done. And I'm curious to see if that is their idea for a, you know, new Zelda game, you know, on a 3DS. Is it bite-sized or dungeon? You know, will we get like 15 dungeons that are all 10 to 15 minutes, or you know, how does that work? And I also wonder how much they'll let the traditional Link to the Past design of Hyrule restrict them. You know, it seems like it's
I'm
the
a
same
little worried
Hyrule.
about that. So yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Is it the
there's,
same?
there's
Like-
images going around and there in our Link to the Past 2 wiki that kind of line up the new map that you can get some screenshots. You can piece together the lumberjack area and then compare it to the map of Link to the Past, and it is like to the pixel, like
No. Now there are new
right.
bushes.
Right, there's new
They put
bushes.
some new bushes
I'm
for you to
saying, yeah,
whack.
proportionately though,
No,
like
no, it's
the width of Link
same.
to the width of a door and stuff is like all the same.
Yeah.
If that portion of the map is the same, that's okay. I'm wondering what the Dark World is like, or if there's a completely
going to be a
warped
Dark World.
version of that world,
Yeah, the
and
Dark
then
World
that's your
could be
starting
different.
point.
Or I mean, just like in
and
a
as
Link
Jeremy
If
well
they're actually
knows-
paying attention to the storyline, there would be no Dark World because it was
Yeah.
restored to the Golden Land.
We
Yeah,
don't know where
so
it
what do
takes
they
first,
do?
Though. It could take.
It
It could be a
takes-
prequel.
it's a
for all we
sequel.
know.
Guys, maybe it actually is a Link to the Past this time. Of
Whoa.
course, there was no
Now
time
it's the
travel in
past.
a Link to the
Past.
Past. So, yeah, I guess it was just a reference to the link that's in it. Right?
You know, it would be very A Link to the Past too to just have new areas just open up. You get a new item, and suddenly you can access the whole new area of the map. that
Or
wasn't
it
in
could
the
go
original
Zelda
game.
2 style, which
What if-
you
what if
know
it's-
well is in Zelda 2, the lower left corner of the map was the original
Southwest.
Legend of Zelda, so the southwest area. Below Death Mountain was actually the original Zelda map, and then the whole world around it was the Zelda 2 area.
Yeah, I
It would
mean,
be
Link
it's
had a
amazing.
hammer that
amazing.
could smash one of those boulders on Death Mountain in a single blow.
What if you were
I want
Link's
a cool
uncle?
weapon like that.
Yeah.
What if you were Link's uncle? And
You're
it's
not-
actually a
Now we
prequel?
find out what Zelda is. Zelda is your ... Now we get to learn what that is.
Exactly.
What was he going to say?
It's actually it's a.
Do you never
it's-
find out?
No, you never
No,
know.
he just dies.
He dies.
Spoilers, sorry.
What do
He
you
comes
think?
back to life in the end.
Wow.
What do you
Sorry,
think he is?
kiddos.
Density. She is your density.
Okay.
Well, that's Jeremy's prediction.
Yeah,
She is your
I do
delicious
have
cereal.
I do have one
She's your
concern that
goddess?
kind of ties into what you guys were saying, which is that a big part of the appeal of the Zelda games up until after Wind Waker, it sort of changed after that, is that there's just this sort of openness and this sort of kind of free range, free roaming exploration of the world, and they've gotten away from that, especially in the portable games. But I guess after people complained so much about ocean sailing in Wind Waker, they really scaled that back, and the more recent Zelda games in the past 10 years have been a lot more linear. But if that's the case, it's really going to lose a lot of the appeal of A Link to the Past, because
And it wouldn't be A Link to the Past in that case.
I know, I mean, so
You know?
much of the appeal of A Link to the Past was there's kind of like all of Hyrule, and you can go just about everywhere, and then it becomes more complex with the Dark World as you start to explore. But it is just kind of like, you know, this big adventure where you go out and you find the dungeons and you...
It's a very
That's one thing I've
do
missed about
things.
Zelda in the modern releases is like it was sort of there in Twilight Princess, but not really. I just missed having this big open Hyrule field, and I could just go and kill enemies and explore as much as I wanted, find new areas.
Yeah, I've read entire essays on Zelda losing its sense of danger and exploration and
I mean,
wonder.
the exploration changed, right? It's just different. It's more cinematic
packaged.
now, and it's a little more
Well,
packaged.
now it's much more
It's
about
like exploring
having...
the contours of an area
Yeah,
instead of not having any contours to an area and just being like, where do I go?
The real focus of the adventure in Zelda now, especially with like Skyward Sword, is having these really elaborate dungeons that are, you know, sometimes they can take 2 or 3 hours to complete a single dungeon.
Yeah.
And so it becomes much more of this sort of contained space. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I do like the more open world. The last time there was any kind of real non-linearity in Zelda was Oracle of Seasons, where you could go to the dungeons out of order if you just happened to come across them.
I remember having
I
that
miss
feeling
that.
in a dungeon that I just wanted to get the thing and get out of there and see what I could do back in the overworld. And that's what I really like about A Link to the Past is that, you know, the dungeons are actually really tough in that game, and some of the bosses are. We were talking about this earlier. They're great. They're so well done, but I always have that feeling when I'm in there, like, man, I just want to get back out there and like figure out like which trees I can talk to now, whatever.
Here's an interesting
hookshot things.
Yeah.
Here's one thing that's interesting is we know EAD is developing this. They're also developing that new Wii U Zelda that's down the road that we know they're sort of busting conventions with. And despite the fact that those games will be remarkably different, Link to the Past 2 and whatever this other Wii U Zelda game is, I wonder almost if they use this as maybe a stepping stone to help them get back to what Zelda used to be and shift it back a little bit, and maybe they do bring back the dungeons in any order, because we know that they were kind of talking about that in January. They were like, we're gonna, you know, let you do dungeons in different orders and make it a little, you know, wider open and start.
Or they said those
down.
are the ideas they're thinking about.
Yeah, but I wonder if
they think about a lot of ideas. If you've read Hyrule Historia, just looking at the development of Skyward Sword, there's so many ideas that they're just like, this is neat, but yeah, we don't have this.
Yeah, I do wonder though if this helps them get there. I mean, all the teams are, you know, they're all around each other. I mean, they're working on basically 3 Zelda games at the same time right now,
including
which
Wind Waker.
The Wind Waker HD. Although I wonder if they're getting outside help for that, because it is a port
is helping with that.
Has a role in it. Yeah, we did ask Bill Trennan, and he said that EAD is working on it, but
what does that mean?
The wording on it was a little strange. Like, I wonder.
Miyamoto's like, going in and turning over the tea table occasionally.
Yeah, it's like no more sailing in Wind Waker HD. It's all cars.
Right.
Yeah.
Bullet trains.
On that note,
any last thoughts on Zelda, anyone?
Yeah, I can't believe it's coming out this year.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I didn't see it coming, and I'm really...
That's surprising to me. And in fact, I predict a delay on that.
Wait, how did you not see it coming? Oh, this year.
This year.
Okay, because I mean, like, we talked to Miyamoto last year, and he was like, "Which one do you want?" And I remember Sam was like, "Majora's Mask,"
and we said A Link to the Past. I honestly thought they'd go the Majora's Mask route. I wanted A Link to the Past, but I mean, they already had all the assets for Ocarina, so that would have been so easy to do.
Yeah, very easy.
Although
I'm really pleased. I can't wait to play it more.
He did say he liked Rich and I's shirts, but he didn't say anything about Audrey's. So.
And then I cried a little. But anyway, moving on. We'll be back, Koopalings, with another segment talking about Mario and Luigi Dream Team, so stay tuned.